A single airport took 14 years to build. It opened 9 years late. The cost ballooned from 2.8 billion euros to over 7 billion, and here's the crazy part. It opened right in the middle of a global pandemic when nobody was flying. But that's just the beginning. Right now, across the planet, there are ghost cities sitting empty, airports with zero flights, theme parks that shut down after just months, nuclear storage facilities that will never store anything. All of them cost billions, all of them are massive failures, and almost nobody talks about them. These aren't just construction delays, these are disasters that wasted more money than most countries spend in a year. We're talking about projects where the builders knew things were going wrong but kept building anyway, where politicians ignored experts, where entire cities were built for people who never came. The truth behind these mega builds will shock you. Because the real scandal isn't just the money, it's what these failures reveal about how broken our planning systems really are. Today, I'm showing you the most expensive mistakes in modern construction history. The ghost cities, the cursed highways, the airports that became jokes, and the one nuclear facility that ate $32 billion and will never open. By the end of this video, you'll understand why these projects failed. You'll see the warning signs that everyone ignored, and you'll discover the shocking pattern that connects them all. Let me show you exactly how this happened. Let's start with something important. When governments plan mega projects, they're betting billions on the future. They're trying to predict what cities will need in 10 or 20 years. Will more people fly? Will populations grow? Will businesses move in? These predictions drive everything. A new airport gets built because planners think passenger numbers will double. A city gets constructed because leaders believe workers will flood in. A highway gets approved because officials expect traffic to explode. But here's the problem. These predictions are often wildly wrong. According to research from Oxford University, almost half of all infrastructure projects run over budget. Not by a little bit, by huge amounts. The average cost overrun is 44%. That means if a project is supposed to cost 1 billion, it actually costs 1.4 billion or more, and the time delays. Even worse, 65% of projects finish late, some by years, some by decades. Now you might think this happens because of bad luck, unexpected problems, natural disasters, but that's not the real reason. Most of these failures happen because of something much simpler, something much more preventable. It starts with what experts call optimism bias. When leaders pitch a mega project, they paint the rosiest possible picture. They underestimate costs, they overestimate benefits, they ignore risks. Why? Because if they told the truth, nobody would approve the project. Think about it. If a politician said this airport will cost 7 billion and might open a decade late, would anyone vote for it? Of course not. So they say it'll cost 3 billion and open on time. They get approval, construction starts, and then reality hits. But there's another factor. Once billions get spent, it becomes almost impossible to stop. This is called sunk cost fallacy. Leaders think we've already invested so much, we can't quit now, so they keep pouring money into failing projects, year after year, billion after billion. The result: abandoned airports, empty cities, facilities that will never open, and taxpayers left holding the bill. The projects I'm about to show you all share these problems. They were sold on false promises, they ignored warning signs, and they wasted staggering amounts of money. Now here's where things get really interesting. Let's talk about Berlin-Brandenburg Airport. This is possibly the most embarrassing mega project in modern European history. Picture this: Germany, a country famous for engineering excellence, the nation that builds precision cars and high-speed trains. They decide to build one new airport for their capital city. Simple, right. Construction started in 2006. The plan was straightforward: replace Berlin's aging airports with one modern hub. The budget, 2.8 billion euros. Opening date, October 2011. Here's what actually happened. The airport opened in October 2020, 9 years late. The final cost, over 7 billion euros. More than triple the original budget, but wait, it gets crazier. During those 9 years of delays, the airport just sat there, empty, finished but unusable. Escalators were turned on to keep them working. Display screens showed flight information from other airports just to test them. Security scanners gathered dust. The building was ready but completely silent. Why? Because of the fire safety system. The fire alarms didn't work properly. The smoke extraction system was installed wrong. Sprinklers were placed in the wrong locations. Cables lacked proper insulation. Walls were built with the wrong fire ratings. Engineers found 66,500 defects. 34,000 were called significant. 5,845 were labeled critical. Think about that number. Over 66,000 things built incorrectly. In Germany, the country known for perfectionism, the opening ceremony was scheduled for June 3, 2012. Angela Merkel was supposed to attend. 10,000 guests were invited. Airlines had booked the first flights. The national broadcaster planned 24 hours of live coverage. 3 weeks before opening, they canceled everything. The fire system failed its final test. They were scheduled for October 2013. Then spring 2014, then 2017, then 2018. Each time, new problems emerged. Display screens reached the end of their lifespan before a single passenger walked through. They'd been turned on for 6 years with nobody there. Hundreds had to be replaced. The mayor of Berlin, Klaus Wowereit, was forced to resign over the disaster. One construction company went bankrupt. So did taxi companies waiting for business. Shops that had signed leases to open in the terminal lost everything. One German newspaper calculated the delays cost taxpayers 25 million euros every single month. When the airport finally opened in 2020, it was the worst possible timing. The world was in pandemic lockdown. Air travel had collapsed. The brand new 7 billion euro airport opened to nearly empty terminals. Critics called it a white elephant, a monument to failed planning. The German engineering community was ashamed. But if you think one delayed airport is bad, wait until you see what happens when entire cities fail. Now here's something that will blow your mind. China built entire cities before anyone moved in. Not neighborhoods, not suburbs, entire cities with skyscrapers, shopping malls, parks, roads, everything. The most famous example is Kangbashi. This city was designed to house over 1 million people. The government spent billions constructing it. Today, just over 100,000 people live there. The city is 90% empty. Walk through Kangbashi and you'll see something eerie. 8-lane highways with almost no cars. Massive shopping centers with most stores closed, apartment towers standing dark at night, parks and plazas completely deserted. It looks like the set of a post-apocalyptic movie, but it's not abandoned because of disaster. It's abandoned because people never came in the first place. Why did this happen? It's connected to how China grew so fast in the 2000s. Local governments needed to show economic growth. Building new cities counted as growth. It created construction jobs, it boosted GDP numbers, it made officials look successful, so they built first and hoped residents would follow. They assumed if you build it, they will come. They were wrong. Kangbashi lacked economic opportunity. There weren't enough jobs. People had no reason to move there. The city became known as a ghost city, a symbol of wasted ambition, and it's not alone. China has multiple ghost cities. Places like Ordos, like parts of Forest City in Malaysia. Let's talk about Forest City. This is a $100 billion project, 100 billion. It's built on 4 artificial islands in Malaysia, right across from Singapore. The plan was incredible. 700,000 residents by 2035. A futuristic city rising from the sea, luxury apartments, world-class amenities, a dream paradise they called it. The reality. The city is nearly empty. Most buildings sit unoccupied. The shopping mall has stores that never opened. Others are still under construction. The beach is deserted. There are warning signs about crocodiles. One computer engineer who lived there described it as creepy. He said there's nothing to do. The place feels abandoned even though it's brand new. The developer, Country Garden, is now almost $200 billion in debt. But they still claim they're optimistic about finishing, despite the obvious failure. Why does this keep happening? Because these projects aren't built based on real demand. They're built based on wishes. On hopes, on political pressure to show growth. Now let me tell you about an airport that makes Berlin look successful. Ciudad Real Central Airport in Spain. This airport was supposed to relieve pressure on Madrid's overcrowded hub. The budget started at 200 million euros. It ended up costing over 1.3 billion. The airport opened in 2008. It had modern facilities, a long runway, everything needed for success. 4 years later, it closed. In 2012, they shut it down completely. Zero flights, zero passengers. Why? Because nobody wanted to fly there. The airport was built in the wrong location, too far from major cities. No real passenger demand. Airlines didn't want to use it. For years, the empty airport just sat there. During the pandemic, it was used once to receive flights carrying masks from China. 26 million masks arrived. Then silence again. The airport became a filming location for movies. That's it. 1.3 billion euros for a movie set. Think about what else that money could have built: schools, hospitals, actual infrastructure people need. But here's the kicker. Spain isn't the only country with useless airports. There are over 2,000 abandoned or partially abandoned airports in the United States alone, hundreds more across Europe. Each one represents millions or billions wasted. Each one was approved by officials who thought it made sense. Each one failed because the planning was flawed from the start. And now I need to tell you about the most shocking project of all. This brings us to the most shocking discovery of all. Yucca Mountain was supposed to solve America's nuclear waste problem. For decades, the country had been generating radioactive waste from power plants. That waste needed somewhere safe to go, somewhere it could sit for thousands of years without harming anyone. The solution: build a massive underground storage facility in Nevada, deep inside Yucca Mountain. The project started in the 1980s. It was supposed to be the ultimate answer, a repository that could hold 70,000 tons of nuclear waste. Safe, secure, permanent. Here's what happened instead. $32 billion was spent studying and planning this facility. $12 billion came directly from taxpayer money. $20 billion more was collected from power companies. After all that money, after decades of work, after building tunnels deep into the mountain, the facility will likely never open. Never open. Let that sink in. $32 billion for a facility that will store exactly zero waste. Why did it fail? Multiple reasons: environmental concerns, political opposition, health fears from nearby communities, legal battles, changing administrations. The state of Nevada fought against it. Local residents protested. Scientists raised questions about long-term safety, water contamination risks, earthquake dangers. In 2010, the Obama administration moved to shut down the project. They cut funding, stopped construction. The facility became a political hot potato that nobody wanted to touch. Now here's the really frustrating part. The nuclear waste still exists. It's still sitting at power plants across America in temporary storage. Not designed for long-term use. The problem wasn't solved. It was just abandoned along with $32 billion. This reveals something critical about megaprojects. They don't just fail because of construction problems. They fail because the political will changes, because public opinion shifts, because what made sense to one generation doesn't make sense to the next, and once that happens, no amount of money can save them. But Yucca Mountain isn't alone in this category. Let me tell you about another American disaster, the Interstate H3 in Hawaii. This is a 6-lane highway connecting Honolulu to military bases on Oahu Island. The project was proposed in 1960. It finally opened in 1997. 37 years later, the original budget, $250 million. The final cost, $1.3 billion. That's $50 million per kilometer of road. Now you might think, okay, expensive, but at least it works. Not exactly. Many native Hawaiians refuse to use the highway. They believe it's cursed. During construction, crews destroyed sacred sites and burial grounds. The environmental protests were massive. Legal battles delayed the project for years. Today, the highway is heavily underused. Many locals avoid it entirely. $1.3 billion for a road that significant portions of the population won't drive on. These stories share a pattern. Can you see it? Every single failed mega project starts with the same mistakes. Overconfident predictions underestimated costs, ignored opposition, political pressure to move forward despite warning signs. But here's what really makes these failures catastrophic. It's not just wasted money. It's the opportunity cost. Think about it. 7 billion euros could have built multiple smaller airports. 32 billion could have funded hundreds of renewable energy projects. 100 billion could have housed millions of people in real cities with real jobs. Instead, that money went into empty buildings, unused facilities, failed dreams, and the people making these decisions, most of them faced zero consequences. No politician went to jail for the Berlin airport disaster. No Chinese official was punished for ghost cities. Nobody answered for Yucca Mountain. The taxpayers paid, the citizens suffered, but the decision makers moved on to their next projects. This is the real scandal. Not just that these projects failed, but that the system allowed them to fail so spectacularly that nobody learned the lessons, that new mega projects keep getting approved with the same flawed assumptions. So what does all this mean for us today?